Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Lightyear. So, first off, I gotta say that this movie is a fun adventure film. I feel like this movie, when I say that also, I feel it's a very vanilla film. Um, really, I'm kind of going on and like seeing this like consistent montage through this movie, and I'm like, here's where we're eating up a truckload worth of time. And like we have some fun characters that are kind of be to put in here to just kind of sell a toy or merchandise or whatever. I like Socks. Socks is really fun. I like this character because of course if we weren't to have like a robot or an AI kind of character, we have Socks being put in the show. And plus also if it kind of worked out for like Captain Marvel and the whole cat thing, we have to have like a another cat character being put into this thing. So with this animated movie, I'll go on and I'll kind of tell you, kind of teeing up what this story is about and why I went on and said that it was a possibly vanilla movie for me. For those of you who are diehard Toy Story fans, or eventually went on to also watch like the Buzz Lightyear cartoon that eventually might feel fairly similar to this movie or nothing like it at all. Because eventually I saw bits and pieces of that, but I never fully went on and like watched like multiple episodes to just try to go on and say like, oh yeah, this is just exactly like the show, copy and paste. How could they? Because I kind of figured that would probably happen also. So with that said, we like, for those of you that were going and seeing the trailer, like there isn't much drastically different from the trailer than there is in movie. So we have Buzz that is to go on and eventually be like stuck with a number of his other space rangers slash crew members upon uh, this turnip looking ship. They all end up getting stuck on this planet. And so we have Buzz who is to try to figure out how to help his people escape from said planet. And so Buzz consistently goes on and does these jumps into space to eventually consistently try to go on and hope that he can like be able to have the right mineral that's inside his ship that could be able to fuel his ship to then be able to take him and his people off this planet that at some point is to be inhabitable. So we have Buzz who is going on and consistently attempting these jumps, and he of course is to continue every single time to fail, to the point to where Buzz is going through so many of these jumps that he, every time he is to come back, is to rapidly see a number of his friends and whoever he was to possibly be closest to eventually grow old and eventually die. So we go on and have Buzz, who eventually is to become successful at this attempt, and by then, like anything that he was to have known from the past seems to mostly be gone by this point. And when Buzz does come back, he ends up coming back to a number of people that aren't as skilled as Buzz was. So Buzz then has to go on and realize that this planet is to have a new threat called Zurg. And so Lightyear has to go on and find out through equipment and through certain things how he can go on and be able to fight this new threat, as well as try and use the people that are left on this planet to eventually have him realize that Buzz, as well as these people, have to work together, and that Buzz has to entrust in this crew, even though really, like, Buzz is to think that, oh, like, well, I just am thinking that I'm gonna have to go on and do this all myself because I don't think I can trust these people, because these people aren't really trained in the ways that Buzz was. And so maybe at some point, maybe Buzz is going to have to skill these people up. So, with that said, yeah, it's an enjoyable movie, regardless of how vanillized it was. So, but yeah, there's just montaging, and they're just like side quest missions, and then there is an obvious, um, like hero fights villain kind of thing until they're kind of bored with that, and then they have to go on and eventually just kind of finish this movie off. So with that said, let's go into that double 5 time territory. Let's just go into spoilers about this one. Let's go out of our way to say that it's about that time to go into spoiler time. Spoiler time is about that time again to spoil this movie. So we have Buzz and we have Alicia. So we have both Buzz and Alicia that are going on this planet hoping that they can land their turnip looking ship, and are to hope that there is to be life upon this planet, because that is the reason why they went on to this planet, is because there's supposedly some kind of life force on there. So we have Buzz and we have Aisha that are going through this mission, and so Aisha was to go on, and like Buzz hates like the autopilot named Ivan, and is to eventually realize that also Aisha is to have awakened a rookie called Feathering Hamston. Feathering Hamston, which eventually they just call the rookie, because really every single time they don't want to go on and rattle off this guy's name, because it's far too long. So they end up just calling him the rookie. So we have Buzz that is to immediately go on, and we at first think that he's all by his lonesome, and so he's going on and doing this kind of commander's log or space ranger's log via his kind of little thing. And so Buzz is to go on and do this log because, of course, Buzz was to have done that before. And so Buzz goes on and is to do this internal monologue. And so Aisha is telling Buzz, is like, you know, nobody actually listens to those, right? And Buzz is just like, well, like, was I doing that monologue? I didn't even realize that I was doing it. And so we just have Buzz continuing to do that so that we can comfort him. And so Buzz goes on to have all the other crew members in this cryostasis, and so they're the only 3 going on to this mission and seeing what this planet has to offer. So they go on to this planet and they're checking it out, and eventually we have these vines that go on and start attacking Aisha and Buzz and this rookie. And so Buzz is to realize that this planet is now inhabitable, and so they need to go on and eventually try to get out of here. They need to eventually try to rescue themselves. But come to find out, we go on into this story and have it, of course, where when they try to evade or get out of this area, they end up, of course, losing their fuel source. So now they have to go on and use the minerals within this planet to try to go on and do this jump to hope that they can get them out of there. So Buzz is to go on and say, like, okay, well, like, I'm going to go on and I'll do this. So we have Buzz that goes on and does this first jump, and it seems that this mineral like didn't really hold all that well. It was holding at like 87%, and Buzz is like, well, that's good enough for me. So Buzz goes through and is to eventually do this jump, but by the end of it, he kind of goes on and is to be flying on fumes, and then when he comes back, he realizes that 4 years have passed. And so now we have Buzz who comes back to Aisha, and Aisha, of course, is to be like, I think she's married to a woman, and so it's like, oh, well, that's great. Like, that's great for you. So Buzz is to now come back home, and that's when we have Buzz who, considering like everybody has kind of moved on from the last 4 years. So like for Buzz Lightyear, like honestly, Chris Evans, who has played kind of Captain America, who is a kind of man out of time, like this technically was a really good casting because technically we've had it to where everybody and their brother has kind of gone on and like decided to make a life for themselves on this planet while Buzz has been gone. And so like they have a whole barracks and they have a whole like environment they set up, and then every time we go on we have some vine who is to grab somebody and pull them out, like somebody's to go and cut that down. So Buzz is to go on and eventually find this other mineral for them to use. So that's when we start getting the montaging over and over and over. So we have Buzz who's going on and again using this mineral, and again he fails. So eventually he comes back to Aisha, that eventually is getting older, to the point of every time he goes back, he sees that Aisha has kids, and eventually has like certain holidays and certain this and certain that. And so every time Buzz eventually goes on, he sees a slightly different older Aisha, and every time Aisha is to try to drive Buzz back to this place so he can go on and again be shot off out of these rockets for the from the XL-1 to eventually the XL-15. So they go on, and where Ivan like never, or when Buzz never relied on Ivan the autopilot, eventually we have Buzz who hated the autopilot. By the end of the movie, he's going on. He's like, "Oh, thank God that Ivan's here, that I can go on and rely on this character, that I can just tell him to do something, and he'll be able to do it." Kind of interesting how a character hates it, but then has to rely on it now because he just has so many technologies and so many things that he's just unfamiliar with. So we have Buzz who eventually has socks, and so we have Buzz, if he has nobody, he'll still always have socks. And so by the time that Buzz continues to keep coming back, and every time he fails, finally Buzz is to find out that that Aisha had died. and so that there is now a new guy who is kind of taking over Aisha's place, and that's Commander Burnside. So Burnside is to go on and say that he had created a shielding over the environment that they are in, so that way no longer will these vines go on and try to get to them and try to grab them and tear them apart. So Commander Burnside is to go on and say that Buzz Lightyear no longer needs to go on and do any of these jumps anymore, because it seems that this planet is now safe for them. And so they kind of given up after so many attempts. Like, why waste the resources? So Buzz is to finally come back, and so we had Buzz that was telling Socks to try to figure out the perfect amount of minerals and the perfect equation to have the perfect amount of crystals to be able to make this jump perfect. And it took him 62 years to be able to accomplish this, but he figured it out. So we have Buzz that's like, no, like, this is going to be my time now. Like, I'm going to be able to figure this out now, and I need this chance. I need this shot to be able to do this. Because I think this time around, like, this will lead to a success. So Buzz goes on and is to commandeer the XL-15 and is to take it on a joyride without people's consent. And so Buzz goes on and is to fly off with this and is to make the jump, and he's successful. But instead of it taking him 4 years to go on and do this jump, it takes him 22 years. So Buzz now comes to a place that is well beyond what it was. And so when Buzz comes back, comes to find out, instead of having Aisha, that of course is there, we now have Izzy, that is to be now there, Izzy Hawthorne, which of course is a descendant of Aisha. So Izzy is to, of course, be Aisha's grandchild, and so like Buzz is to say that, like, well, hey, like, well, if you're anything like your mother, like, we used to finish one another's sentences, and really that's not the case between the both of them, but at some point maybe it will be. So we have Buzz that is just thinking the people that are left are all like trained up to the gills, and we'd actually find out that is completely wrong. Because we have Izzy, and we have Morrison, and we have Darby, who are kind of left here, are just kind of left here because they're misfits. And so come to find out, Darby was to be some prisoner who got time knocked off on Darby's sentence for Darby to just kind of be like kept here and like kept guard on the planet. Morrison is to go on and to be like Taika Waititi, but like he's a very goofy character, and like he's interesting, but like not very trained all that well. And so we have Izzy that is to go on and be like the commander of these two. And so Buzz is thinking that these guys are all like trained to the gills, but come to find out, like, these characters aren't even like rookie trained. Like they like want to hope that eventually they'll become a rookie someday. And Buzz is like, oh my god. So Buzz is to come to this planet realizing that there is a new threat here, and that of course is to be Zurg. So Zurg is to have all these Zybots or Zyclops, and so we also have there being a robot that the three Izzy, Mo, and Darby characters have, which is Durik, who really, when looking at it, is a waste of time. We go on and we have Durik, who really doesn't have much to add here, this being some kind of robot. And eventually, when Buzz, who is to lose out on his ship, when eventually the enemy is to have taken his ship, we now have Buzz that is forced to have to go on and just look for another ship. We have Buzz, who of course has the fuel cell for his ship, but now, like, he no longer has a ship. So Buzz now has to go on and ask Derek where the next possible ship is, and Derek is to go on and on and on about what the perfect route is, but then every single time there is some kind of problem getting there. So Derek is like, well, let me recalibrate and let me go on and tell you exactly what route you should go, to where every single time there's always some problem. So Derek is, I'm sure, like, what they should have gone on and done in the end credit scenes is have Derek finally say what the final solution is, and just be like, oh, thank God, like, that took me forever. And that would have been, like, the final goofy end credit scene, which I'm sure that's one of the scenes that they probably had ready to go. But that just never made it to possibly the cut of this movie. But I didn't want to go on and watch every single end credit scene, because I don't know if there was one or two. I just saw the one stupid cutscene where we have Burnside, who ends up getting, like, smacked something on his window, and, like, that's seriously an end credit scene? That means nothing. So we have Buzz, who's like, well, okay, I'm going to go on and I'm going to find this other ship. And so we have all of a sudden where Buzz is to go on and being attacked by one of these Cyclopses. And so come to find out, none of the other rookies, that's how Buzz realizes how trained they are, is none of these people can actually handle a gun. And so all these people are kind of using all these other items to take down this thing. And we have Mo, or Taika Waititi's character, who uses this harpoon gun, and he ends missing the first time around of trying to hit this thing. And we have it, like, hit, like, a part of his side or part of his arm. So Buzz is now to be carried away by the Cyclops, or the Zyclops. So Buzz is realizing that he's probably going to die here, that nobody's helping him, that he is desperately telling Izzy to kind of toss this gun to him, and Izzy is to go on and try to toss this gun, and it comes nowhere close to him, and the Cyclops just steps on it with his boot, not realizing that it's underneath his boot, and crushes it. So Buzz is just going on like, oh my God, like, I am seriously going to die. So Buzz just tries to take this Zybot apart, and or Cyclops apart, to eventually have this arm detach from this robot. And so we now have Buzz, who is running to get to this arm that is to go on and start to blast. And so by the time that Buzz grabs this arm, hoping that there's going to be another blast coming from this arm, the arm stops blasting. So Buzz is realizing that like there's no way for him to win, but all of a sudden we have this harpoon that ends up getting right into the robot and taking it down. So Buzz is like, "Oh, thank God!" And that's when he goes on and is asking everybody. It's like, "Well, hey, like, what are you guys talking about? That you guys like can't even fire a gun? What are you guys talking about? This makes no sense." So because I guess the lasers that are on their arms, like, they don't really work that well. Because obviously, um, otherwise Buzz would have gone on and used that heavily. So Buzz finds out the qualifications of the people he's working with, and he's like, "Ugh, like I think I'm just gonna go on my own and do this mission myself." Because Buzz doesn't like to work with, let alone rookies. Now he's going on to work with people that have the qualifications of nothing. So Buzz is to go on and decide that he's going to do this alone and he'll figure it out. So, but these guys are stubborn and they want to eventually go with him regardless. So, Buzz and all the crew are to make their way to have Buzz go into this other hangar. That is to have the XL1 hanging there. And so we have Sox who is to scan in this hangar and realize that there is to be a possible organism. I think it's like an insect organism of sorts, and that supposedly they're all in these kind of eggs and they're kind of hibernating. So Buzz is like, okay, well, we just got to be quiet and we just got to get in here. So Buzz goes on to, like, over time, there's been a number of outfits that he has had to go on and change into. And so when Buzz is to make his way back to the XL1, to the very first thing that he took off in, all of a sudden we now find that we, of course, have the original Buzz Lightyear suit that, of course, Buzz kind of puts on, and he's like, yeah, like, great. So, come to find out, we have we have Izzy and Darby and we have Morrison that make their way to where Lightyear is, and we go on and we accidentally have one of the characters go on and are to set off this car alarm, and that car alarm eventually wakes up every one of the insects, the organisms that are going on and being in this place. Because we have Lightyear that is still stubbornly wanting to go on his own, and Izzy is like, well, hey, like, we can still kind of help you, but so Buzz Lightyear eventually is to kind of hand them the keys to kind of let them go their separate ways. And like I said, the keys kind of go on and make this kind of alarm. And so now all these bugs are to go on and start swarming the kind of room that Buzz and all these other people are in. So Buzz goes on and closes this door. And so now the plan is to go on and have Buzz be in stealth mode, because I guess this suit is to somehow have stealth mode, and trying to make it to the ship and get the heck out of there. But eventually they come to this plan of, well, like, why not have just everybody go on and everybody put on the stealth suit, and then we just all go to the ship. And Buzz is like, well, yeah, like, let's go with that. So we have all of the characters now in these Buzz Lightyear suits, because we also really just have to sell different kind of merchandise for this movie, I'm sure. So, like, hey, here's this character. Oh, hey, here's this character. Here's a slightly tweakingly different character. Here's action figure for this. Like, they have to have 30 different variations of characters, so eventually they could just kind of sell plushies and action figures and merch, of course. So that are slightly tweakingly different. So we go on, and so Buzz is to make it to the ship, and we have a lot of the other characters that are kind of goofing around, messing with the insects because they can't see them. And so Buzz is to realize that there's actually a timer on the stealth mode, and he didn't realize it before. So we had Buzz that was telling the crew members, like, whatever they do, like, don't touch, like, the red button that's on the side, like the big red button, because eventually what happens when they do that is they kind of get this kind of like flotation device that normally would help them out if they were in water. So we have it where all of a sudden the stealth mode ends up deactivating for a number of people that are outside the ship. And so all of a sudden, crazily, we have people starting to hit buttons on their suit. And we have one of the characters going on and hitting the one button that kind of puts out this flotation device. And so now Izzy and I think Darby are going on and rolling Morrison to make it to the ship. And so we go on, and of course the one person that has the kind of flotation device can't really get into the ship all that well. So Buzz has to kind of reach in to turn this thing back off, and so he does. And so eventually everyone is to go on and just try to like scramble into the ship, and everybody's just kind of upset with Lightyear of like, well, hey, why didn't you tell us there was a timer on the suit? As well as he was kind of asking, it's like, well, why didn't you guys all get into the ship? And it's like, well, hey, like, you didn't tell us there was a timer on this stealth mode, so we didn't know. So Buzz is like, well, I forgot about it also. Because eventually going on through multiple different like suits over time, they probably didn't have a stealth mode, or they probably didn't have a stealth mode with a timer on it. So Buzz gets in the ship and Buzz takes off. So we now have to have it to where, like, even though everything should be perfect and they should be able to do all this and it should all work, yeah, it doesn't happen that way. So, because when they try to take off, eventually they start getting attacked, and so that eventually leads them to, via these Cyclopses, they end up using the one fuel source to eventually fuel their ship, because the robots, or the Cyclopses, are trying to attack the ship, the XL1, and they end up pulling out the fuel source while it, of course, is being attacked. And so now we have to go on, and we have to have Buzz Lightyear, as well as a number of these people, all go into Zurk's ship to face him to try to get their fuel source back. Because come to find out, there is a real good legitimate reason why Zurk is to want to get this fuel source himself. So we, again, have Buzz Lightyear that wants to go on and eventually go in to Zurk's ship and tries to go on and get this fuel source. And we have Zerg. Zerg. I've been saying that wrong. We have Zerg, who is to start fighting Lightyear. And come to find out, at first, Zerg fights Lightyear, but then Zerg is to reveal who he really is, and he's a Buzz Lightyear from 50 years from now, so he's the same guy. I'm like, oh my god, like, so is this kind of like Edge of Time, where we have like the 2099 Spider-Man, and then we have like the Peter Parker who ends up turning like villain, and it's now to have like wanted to try to stop whatever it is that they were trying to do because he turned villain. Is this kind of the same story? So we have Zerg, or we have older Buzz Lightyear that is talking to Buzz. And so it seems that since all the robots could not go on and figure out how to say Buzz, every robot ended up just calling Buzz Zerg, so that's why the name just kind of stuck. So Zerg is telling Buzz that eventually he went on and was to figure out how to perfect the jump, and when he did come back to a Earth that hadn't aged that often or aged that well, he eventually had Commander Burnside and a bunch of the Space Rangers try to arrest Buzz because what he did was wrong. And what he did was kind of like, he did what he did, but he didn't have permission to do it. So even though he was successful, like, still, like, they went on and were to try to go on and arrest Lightyear. So Lightyear went on and decided to eventually run away from this planet and make a possible alternative plan to hope that he could possibly go on and like travel back in time to possibly some early stages to maybe prevent all of this from happening, or like older Buzz was to try to go on and like want to figure out how all this could have been prevented or something along those lines. But like, we still have 50-year-old Buzz that is to still try to do the stealing of this mineral so he can go on and he can be able to do one last jump. Because I guess Buzz has gone on to kind of try these jumps a number of different times to possibly wind back time or whichever. So that what was kind of like lost on me. I'm like, okay, what was the real goal here? So we have Buzz, who is to realize that like what Zerg is doing, like both of them are no longer the same person. Like, they don't have the same thoughts. And so Buzz is like, well, hey, I would never go on and try to do something like this. So we have moments where Socks was to go on and shoot these people with darts to just try to knock them out. And so Socks would go on and take a dart to kind of one of the Space Rangers when they were trying to go on and collect Socks when Buzz Lightyear's mission was over. And Buzz, who is to have Socks, who is to figure out the equation of all this, Buzz wanted to keep the cat, so he could have the cat tell him this equation that only he would have the answer to, because and this would have been the one-time answer, because eventually they broke the device that had the certain combination all in there. And so eventually Socks would probably have to take another 62 years to figure out this combination at some point, the perfect combination of minerals. So we have also future Socks that is kind of like robot chickened a little bit, where like he kind of has like some metal, kind of like a Terminator style socks. So as we have Buzz and we have Zerks, who are kind of starting to like bicker and fight about what's going on, we have Socks that is to go on and put a dart into older Buzz Lightyear, and go on and have younger Lightyear go on and take this mineral and try to get out of here. But so we also find out that the ship that they are to eventually try to leave with is to also need some kind of part to it to force them on some other kind of like scavenger mission and stuff like that, because they need some kind of coil to where Buzz, as well as a number of the team, are to make it to this place that is to have these sandwiches, and these sandwiches are to have one thing of bread on the inside and two things of meat on the outside. And Buzz is to look at this kind of sandwich and it's like, what the heck is this? And they're like, you've never had a sandwich before? And he's like, I've never had a sandwich like this. Like normally, like the sandwich, the bread would be on the outside, two things of bread, and like the meat would be on the inside. And they're like, no, like that doesn't seem right. Like, really, like that's too much bread. And so they're going on and they're mentioning how like, no, that this meal is like perfect, like there's so much moisture now on this meal. And Buzz is going on and saying that like, well, yeah, but everything is falling out of the sandwich. Like everything that's on, like because like the bread is like the usual thing to hold all the stuff inside the sandwich. Now you're taking that part out and you're having the meat that is supposed to hold in all this, like this cucumber or pickle or whatever it is, and all the stuff is just kind of falling out of the sandwich as you're eating it. And so what good is that? So and I'm sure at some point somebody's probably going to go on and sell like a meat sandwich, right? Is that going to be the Lightyear meal? Somebody's going to be out there, I'm sure. I can see Disney World somewhere. Hey guys, try the Lightyear sandwich. Or try the Lightyear. That's what they'll call it. I'm just waiting for the meat sandwich to happen. Somebody needs to make it and figure out. Hopefully it's not like this juicy garbage crap that they kind of show on the thing. I would want a justifiable meat sandwich that honestly looks really good. But I don't know if there'd ever really be that, because you need like the perfect kind of meat to make a perfect kind of sandwich. And I don't know if you could do that. But anyways, it'd probably just be ham. But anyways, so but they're bickering about it. But eventually they go and they find this coil to put into their ship. So they scramble, they go on, and they are to still have to go on and fight Zurg at this point. So Buzz is going on and trying to fight Zurg, and eventually we have Darby, and we have Izzy and we have Morrison. And so Morrison and Darby are so focused on making this like mine, and we have Darby that is starting to take apart this one light fixture for eventually this light fixture to kind of drop on these robots. And so they're taking all the time in the world being in this one location, hoping that this light fixture is going to fall on these bots, and that is to possibly what is to set off this bomb. So while they're doing that, we have Izzy that is to be rescuing Buzz Lightyear, as when Buzz is to fight off Zurg, Buzz and Zurg is to accidentally hit a part of the ship that is to eventually have this like anti like gravity kind of button that is to, or anti-gravity kind of thing that is to be like put into the room, so where all of a sudden now they're all floating. So we have Izzy where this is to all come onto Izzy's shoulders, of Izzy wanting to go and having to save Buzz here. So Izzy is to go out and try to kind of like shoot her way out to get to Buzz, but then all of a sudden Izzy is to try and grab on to a certain part of the ship so she can hang on, and she ends up kind of almost overshooting the ship. And then when she finally grabs onto something, all of a sudden now Socks is to kind of start floating away also. So Izzy now has to hope she can grab on to a part of Socks where she does his tail, and then Izzy is to go on with Socks to make it back where Buzz is and try to retrieve him, and then try to get the heck out of there. So, and eventually the fixture does fall on these robots, and things, and like everything comes off as planned. So we eventually have it where everything eventually works out, just a very vague sense, where Buzz Lightyear goes back and is to make it with this jump to eventually go on and re-meet up with Captain Burnside. And so after their successful mission and their successful jump, we just have Burnside who just turns around and says like, well, hey, like, you know what, Buzz, like, I'm just gonna go on and like exclusively give you your own Space Ranger team, so you can kind of go out and explore and do whatever you want, because we want a franchise out of this, I'm sure. So we have Buzz that says, instead of going off and getting any of the like the full-on like recruits that he of course was to get from Burnside, he instead wants to stick with the crew he's already had, which is these characters that aren't even rookies. We also had Buzz when they were to try to land after they did this jump. They had a problem with trying to get like the landing gear, and so come to find out, we had Morrison that was to be playing around with this pen. Every time he would just kind of hit this button on his chest, and this pen would pop out, and it's like, okay, what is the pen going to be used for? So Darby just needed Morrison to have a piece of metal that that Darby can rip to eventually get this latch open, so they can get this landing gear out. And so Morrison is to have the pen to give to Darby, and so Darby goes on and is to hit this this switch to have the landing gear help them land on this plane. Because I guess they couldn't figure out the landing gear of things. So they had to have like an emergency landing gear. Because what happened was with the ship that they had, like they were coming in like really hot. And so Buzz was to try to have like Ivan try to figure out how they can kind of correct things. And like Ivan really wasn't helping out. So they just had to go on and have to come up with like this emergency landing gear while Buzz was kind of like kind of directing where this ship was to go on, because Buzz had his own kind of jetpack on him. So, and a lot of people were kind of hoping for them to get the jetpack, but we end up getting it at the end of the movie, as if we have to go on and we have to re-earn something. But like if Buzz had that jetpack throughout the whole movie, then eventually people would probably be like, well, like, isn't that convenient that he has this thing on the whole movie? And so eventually we technically had to re-earn it, but also the scene is to have justified its use. So Buzz goes on and is to kind of like fall before the ship really lands, and so that way he has a safe landing on the planet, and the ship makes it. And then we Burnside again, who's going on and saying like, well, hey, like Buzz, you can take anybody you want. And Buzz is like, well, I already have my crew. So they, of course, are to go on their mission, and this time around, we have it to where both Izzy and both Buzz are to the infinity and beyond, and because we had it to where Buzz was to try to like do the finger thing before, and Izzy was like, "What are you doing?" And Buzz is like, "Well, like it was a thing that you and like your grandmother used to do, but I guess like since you don't know what this is." Then like we're so like at least they kind of made sense of the whole to infinity and beyond thing. It's kind of a weird thing between the both of them. Like at least it's not something that they just bizarrely just shouted for whatever goofy reason. Like at least they like didn't have like a kind of goofy saying or a kind of a slogan or something that they were trying to sell within this movie, besides the normal infinity and beyond thing. So that was nice that they kind of went on and didn't like they weren't trying to go overboard and were to try to like make this movie to be a certain route, or they were trying like to do a number of kind of too much of something. But anyways, it's a light and easy movie for a lot of kids to probably enjoy, so they probably will. That's the target audience anyways. So with that said, I think I'm just going to get that out of here. I've talked for far too long about this movie anyways, and I went, when I really went into spoilers, I apologize, I went far too vague. But really, there was a lot of, like, technical stuff, which I just wanted to dance around, because I'm like, I don't want to go into every single technical thing in this movie. Plus, really, there wasn't easy ways to just know every single technical thing within this film anyways. Because I'm not very familiar with, like, the Buzz Lightyear show, like the cartoon, so I'm sure there's a lot of technical jargon there that just kind of I never went into when watching the Buzz Lightyear show, because I'm not very familiar with it. So, really, at the end of the day, people can go out of their way to tell me that this is to have been just like the Buzz Lightyear cartoon that they eventually watched. And really, a lot of people could have just said, like, well, why not just watch that Buzz Lightyear cartoon instead of, like, waiting for this movie to heavily come out. I think that's the one, like, real thing that is to go on and put a big, huge hole into this movie is just for the fact that you have a whole entire cartoon of a thing that already exists. So a number of people can watch that, and like they don't have to rush to get to this movie. They can just wait till it eventually just plops out on Disney Plus. That is the one massive hole when Disney goes on and doesn't do anything heavily unique or just kind of recycles from a thing that already exists. that's the mistake they made. Because eventually, like for the Miss Marvel show, there's already like Marvel Rising for that, and so like there's always some kind of something that you can already be watching that is almost similar or almost be like the equivalent of whatever new product is to come out for Disney Plus. So it gets to be that you don't have to rush to see it because there's something else already available. So with that said, I'm gonna get out of here. Talk for far too long, anyways, and I'm sure by a certain number of minutes I will have to go on and fuse clips together, and I want to do that. So with that said, bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.